This conference is being recorded.
Hey, thank you guys for being here on this wonderful Sunday evening or afternoon or morning, depending on where you're at. Got a great guest this evening. Mr. Michael Kearns is going to be with us. I had a great discussion with him here a few weeks ago. And I'd also like to thank at this time Galen for turning me on to this gentleman. It's amazing right now with me looking around in different directions and studying different things and like I said, really focusing my research, that I'm stumbling across some people who have done exactly what I've always known in the back of my mind is required. And to me, standing in honor is by giving just a lawful notice to people. And everybody needs to do their own diligence. We all need to research this info, and you've got to know what you're standing on. And otherwise, it can be very dangerous and harmful to yourself, and you're not going to accomplish what you want. In fact, you may accomplish just the opposite. You know, thinking about this stuff reminds me of when I took a class for concealed carry. And a lot of people are scared of weapons, or scared of people carrying them, and things like that. But the bottom line was, I think, myself included, although I had used firearms all my life, you know, I felt more secure in me and my knowledge and what I was doing, at even a higher level of a feeling of responsibility. And I think that when people get into this information and research it and really learn who you are and what you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be standing on, that at the same time, you're also going to feel a higher level of responsibility for the knowledge that you know and for how you're supposed to be conducting yourself and what you're supposed to really be doing to stand in honor. And to me, that is what our guest tonight has done. And tonight, I'm going to turn over the floor to him. I'm going to mute myself out, and I hope the other people on the host line do the same thing, because I really want to give the floor to Michael and let him go through what he's done, his results from it, and the standing that all true Americans need to be taking. Now, we're not supposed to be patronizing or being necessarily patriotic, same word, to another entity. We're supposed to hold ourselves responsible and responsible to our Creator as well. So at this time, I'd like to turn everything over to Michael. So I know, Michael. How are you doing this evening?
If I was any better, you couldn't stand
it. Well, you know, I'm probably not going to be able to stand it here in an hour or so when you're done. So, yeah, I'm going to turn the floor over to you and let you run with it, brother.
All right, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and I know there's a lot of folks listening, and I hope we can bring some information that will help you. Like the disclaimer said in the early part here, this is not legal advice, authorized significant legal advice, but what I am going to give you is political advice. And I am authorized to give you political advice. because nobody says I can. So anyway, the thing of it is here, before we get into the subject, I think it's important to lay out the context here, because I'm going to discuss the subject with you. I'm going to discuss the reason why we have to do this, because until you point out to people why they need to do something, they just never get it. They don't apply it to their own lives. And all of a sudden, one day they'll be thinking about it, and bang, light bulbs will start going off. And that's what I try to do, is I try to turn on people's light bulbs. I want them to grasp it themselves, say, oh my God, that's the way it is. Oh, I never thought that would be that way, or, whatever. I couldn't imagine, or some such. So anyway, I think what we need to do first off here is discuss the main reason why this is necessary to correctly state your political character, status, and allegiance. I'm going to tell it to you, and I'll tell it to you several times so you'll get it. The reason is that you need to have your political character, status, and allegiance correct, so that you can state a claim upon which relief can be granted. Now, you hear the courts always say, oh, denied, failed to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. And you're either in there for the wrong reason, the wrong court, the wrong parties, whatever. And so that's their famous thing, is denied, failed to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. So I'm here to tell you a little bit about how to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. And the first thing that you have to come to understand, at least I had to come to understand it, when I started into this quest, because I started a long time ago. I'm 75 years old, been an airline pilot, taught people law all my life, aviation law, pilot law, airport law, all kinds of law. But anyway, business here about political stuff, and of course, all my life I thought political was Democrat and Republicans. Whoa, wait a minute, was I in for a shock? Back to the 1776 document that was written by our forefathers, called the Declaration of Independence. They talked about breaking the political bonds with the mother country. Political bonds, not legal bonds, political bonds. I said, wow. And that's what I have tried to do here about Justice Scalia's talking here about 10 years ago about a pre-constitutional sovereign. I said, whoa, that's what I want to be. That's where I want to get to. I tell you, that definition tells you got to go back to the Constitution. You can't be a pre-constitutional sovereign if you're going to depend upon the Constitution to give it to you. This Constitution doesn't give it to you anyway. So anyway, I wanted to be a pre-constitutional sovereign, and I went back trying to find out how that was established. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about today. And the other thing, and please write this down, sovereign citizen, and put a big X through it, and draw several lines through it. That is an absolute anathema term. It's a dichotomy of terms. It's not something I ever let out of anybody's mouth when I don't correct them immediately, because I don't want anybody to call me a sovereign citizen or what I'm doing a sovereign citizen. And I'm not even a citizen, because I call myself, and I have declared myself to be one of the people of the United States, quote unquote, quote, people of the United States, close quote. And I'll be using that term throughout this conversation. And it's a word art term. It's to be used as all of the words together. One term that describes me, or the people who want to be in the same category and class as I consider myself, as I've tried to make myself, as I have made myself. So anyway, first off, we want to find out why we cannot rely upon the Constitution. Now, we made the people of the United States, as a class of people, and not we the people, That's a term that somebody else has been using, but it's not the term where the power is. The term where the power is the people of the United States. And that term is used 14 times in the Supreme Court case called Chisholm versus Georgia, which is 2 U.S. 419, 1793. Look it up. 15 times in there. And the people of the United States are the ones who put forth the Constitution. And my screen just went blank. Hang on. Okay, here we go. Put forth the Constitution. It wasn't we the people. It was the people of the United States. That's where the power's at. And the reason that it is, and if you'll turn with me into, you all have books, I know you do. If you don't, you should. Refer you to Ballantyne's Law Dictionary. And this is not the only time that I'm going to do this, but I'm looking on page 204, and it's under the heading Civil Rights Amendments. Quote, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the United States Constitution are often so referred to because they constitute a substantial departure in the character of the constitutional protection accorded fundamental rights. Now, if that didn't set off an A-bomb in your old noggin, I'm going to read it again so you can write it down or whatever. I'm going to go slow this time because this is very important. Everybody tries to get you into a 14th Amendment citizen. Quote again. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the United States Constitution are often so referred to because they constitute a substantial departure in the character of the constitutional protection accorded fundamental rights. Now, we're going to talk about fundamental rights. We're going to talk about natural rights. We're going to talk about substantive rights, civil rights, because they're all different kinds of rights. And to tell people what kind of rights you're talking about when you're talking to somebody. Let's see. Let me get that. So anyway, as you will all understand here in a little while, fundamental rights and natural rights come from the sovereign, from the ultimate sovereign, God himself, Yahweh, a lot of people call him. That's what I call him, Yahweh. And the great I am. And with these natural rights, fundamental rights, substantive rights, all three of those come from the sovereign, from the great sovereign I am. And the law deals with those in different forms. The government cannot do it. It cannot abridge, enlarge, or modify fundamental rights or natural rights because it only controls civil rights. And we're going to find out here as we proceed here that in order to state your claim, which is what we're talking about right now, stating a claim, you have to have the authority, which means that you have to have the right to make a claim, state a claim, but you have to have the right to make a claim. And only people of a certain political character, status, and allegiance have the right to make a claim. A lot of people can make a claim, but it doesn't mean that they are stating a substantial claim, a sovereign claim, a claim of a higher power, a supreme claim. Yeah, I'll give you a little, for instance. When they wear blue and they drive cars with all these fancy lights on and all that, you know, they pull up behind you and they turn their lights on and all that. Now that officer's coming up to you to make a claim. He is coming to make a claim. He calls it a ticket, he calls it a whatever, I don't care. But anyway, he's coming up to make a claim. And the only thing that you can do you have to tell him in very nice voice, not angry, not everything, because he's there to perform for you. If you have the correct political character status and allegiance, he's there to perform an essential governmental duty for you. People away from you who aren't of your same political character status and allegiance. And if you just quietly tell him that, officer, the first words out of my mouth are, officer, I will not physically offer any order that you give me. The second words out of my mouth are, I do not consent to what you're doing. He says, oh, what don't you consent to, Mr. Kearns? I said, well, officer, I said, you're here to enforce the law of the state of Texas, correct? Yes, sir. I said, I'm proud of that. I enforce that law all the time. Yes, sir. I said, well, officer, I said, would you be shocked if I told you we weren't in the state of Texas right now? The man, a big surprise on their face, is, what are you talking about? I said, well, I'm on the land of Texas. I represent the state of Texas. And I said, you are actually invading my territory. You're operating extraterritorially here with a foreign law coming to my land. And I said, I didn't consent to it. I don't invite you. And I don't consent. And usually it gets better after that, because the last officer who did, he back to the car, which is one of those things that's on the website. I have a miniature copy of it in the glove box. Give it to him. Comes back and he says, Mr. Kearns, he says, this is your lucky day. I said, how's that, officer? He says, well, my ticket writing machine is malfunctioning. I said, oh, okay. But he says, Mr. Kearns, he says, I understand your political views. Have a good day. And away I drove. So, see, he recognized my superior claim and where I was doing. At some point in time, you're going to be able to get to make it for damages if they persist. So with the making the claim here, and if you think about it, if you think about making a claim, every action that you do in life is making a claim. If you go to the grocery store, you are making a claim that you have a right to be there. The grocer man, he opens the door and unlocks the door, and he makes a claim that he has a right to serve you, and you have a right to enter into commerce if you buy articles there. So everything that you do in life is stating a claim in one shape, manner, way, or form. Now, the situation is there are competing claims. Just telling you about here on the officer on the side of the road. He has a claim. He's not, and he has the right to make the claim. It's just that he recognized that my claim was superior to the claim that he was putting forth. Now, that's the best way to handle it, is if you can handle it right then and there. You don't go in front of a judge. You don't take up the court's time. You don't do all this other bullwar. If you can get it right there. And here's the exact reason why it's better to do it that way. Because we are not, at the present time, a constitutional republic. In my humble opinion, we are, at the present time, an administrative democracy. Now, why is that important? Because in my humble opinion, the laws are nothing but suggestions. You can make a claim and state a claim based upon fundamental rights, and basically starting at the Constitution and the prior laws, the treaties before and the laws before and the whatever the Constitution, which all wrapped up into the 1787 Constitution of the United States. You don't have any right to make a claim. And I'm going to tell you the reason why. Is because you are presumed by the government to be a subject of the Crown of Great Britain. Say, whoa, how the hell did that happen? I didn't sign up for that. No, you didn't sign up for nothing. But you didn't state your political character, status, and allegiance either. And so they made the assumption that you were one of the subjects of Great Britain, i.e., a slave. Now, slaves don't have much. In fact, if you ever go over to or see some of the slave conditions that are over in Africa and the Far East and stuff, you'll understand what a slave really is. And notwithstanding what happened early in our history regarding some slave conditions. But anyway, so the essence, the important essence of making a political character, status, and allegiance are founding documents, making you presumptively, or factually, I should not presumptively, factually, a pre-constitutional sovereign, sets you apart from the rest of the people. Now, say, well, Mr. Kearns, how in the world did you ever come up with that bull roar? I said, well, let me tell you how I came up with it. I was reading and going back and reading over the stuff before the Constitution. Back reading, bought a lot of books, history books from that period of time, so I could be sure that what I was reading was correct, and I wasn't trying to play that old game of the wish is the father of the data. You know, I got to be careful of that because everybody wants to have something, say something that doesn't really say. And so it's called the wish is the father of the data. Anyway, I was reading in the Definitive Treaty of Peace of 1783. Now, that is the treaty that ended the hostilities in the American Revolution. There were several treaties signed and made during the American Revolution. And a couple of them, or two or three of them, were called the Treaty of Paris. Well, this one then, and the fact in 1783, and I think February or something early in the year, there was one Treaty of Paris called the Treaty of Paris of 1783. But this Treaty of Paris that was made in September of 1783 is called the Definitive Treaty of Paris of 1783. And therefore, I always put that word, I never used the Treaty of Paris, etc. I always did the whole word, the whole title, Definitive Treaty of Paris, 1783. Now you say, wow, okay. Any place I can find it? I said, oh yeah, you can find that all over the internet. In fact, the Definitive Treaty of Paris, 1783, was passed by the Congress of the United States of America as a statute at large at 8 Stat 80. Make a note of that, 8 Stat 80. Now, the reason that the Congress passed it in the 8 Stat 80, in my humble opinion, is because the United States of America was not really the party to the treaty. The United States and Great Britain, the two countries, not the two governments. So in order to apply the treaty of the Definitive Treaty of Peace to the government, they had to pass it as a statute at large in their statute at large. And by the way, if you go to the Secretary of State's office website and look for treaties currently in force and effect, you will find the Definitive Treaty of Peace of 1783. He says that the only one that's in effect today is Article 1 of that treaty. Well, The reason that they put that in there is because they don't want anybody to know that the other rest of the articles can be invoked and used by the people of the United States, because they are strictly used to dealing with and only subject themselves to the inhabitants of the United States. And that's the other term, Article 3 of the Definitive Treaty of Peace of 1783, that defines the other people in America other than the people of the United States. And if we back up for a minute here, that's all in Article 3. The first and second sentences of that article talks about, the first sentence talks about the inhabitants of the United States, the people of the United States, and the second sentence talks about the inhabitants of the United States. Now, further down in there, it talks about those two grouped together as American fishermen, because it's all about fishing rights and stuff like that. And the Treaty of 1783, the Definitive Treaty of Peace 1783, was in reality a commercial agreement. It didn't say anybody won, didn't say anybody lost, it didn't say any territory. But let me tell you, there's a phrase in there that you'll find. It says a mutually beneficial, they use the word mutually beneficial. One mutually beneficial doctrine, I guess you'd call it, for a better word right now. I can't remember the word. Anyway, is the that exists today. Border in the world without a standing army on either side, and that's the Canadian-American border. That came out as a result of the Definitive Treaty of Peace of 1783. Still stands today. Now, if you're wondering how come the Treaty of Peace is still being talked about, well, let me tell you. I'm gonna bring you up to date here a little bit. There's a Supreme Court case from 1929 versus the United States. And I'm going to turn to it here, and I'm going to read it, a section of it to you, so that you understand exactly what I'm talking about here. And I'll give you the site and authority for it here in a minute. It is Kearns versus United States on the 1783 treaty, and it is 49 Supreme Court 274. I repeat, 49 Supreme Court 274, and it was a 1929 case. And here's what they have to say here. And you just listen as I read it. I'm going to read it to you more than once here. It talks about the effectiveness of the treaty and why we even can use it today. And this is what I base my whole purpose on here, is to be a pre-constitutional sovereign. I'm quoting now. There may be treaties of such a nature as to their object and import, as that war will put an end to them. The treaties contemplate a permanent arrangement of territorial and other national rights, or which, in their terms, are meant to provide for the event of an intervening war. It would be against every principle of just interpretation to hold them extinguished by the event of war. If such were the law, even the Treaty of 1783, and I put in there, so far as it fixed our limits and acknowledged our independence, would be gone, and we would have had again to struggle for both upon original revolutionary principles. Period. Such a construction was never asserted and would be so monstrous as to supersede all reasoning. Supersede all reasoning. Now, this is the Supreme Court saying this. So they recognize the efficacy of the Definitive Treaty of Peace and its principles even today. Notwithstanding what the people in the Secretary of State's office say about it in their little deal, because the Article 1 is the only one that applies to the inhabitants of the United States, while the people of the United States can invoke the whole deal. Okay, so we've discussed here and the reason for the claim, and reason for you to know about your right to make a claim. up here in about 30 minutes. So I've been talking for a while here, and probably what we need to do is take a little respite here and open up for some questions about stating a claim, making a claim. And if you keep the questions to that part of the little talk we've had so far, I'd appreciate it. Board operator, it's your turn.
Now, my
Q&A session started.
when you're talking about, that is exactly what we are doing when we're doing our declaration of our political character and status, correct?
Well, yes, you are, and when you base your declaration of political character, status, and allegiance, the reason that I use the founding documents is because now I have some authority, a higher authority. When you go into that definitive treaty of peace, you will see that the crown of Great Britain and the United States acknowledged that the states were free, sovereign, and independent thereof, and that the crown released all claims. All claims. Now, how does anybody make the claim that you're going to pay? Property tax? Released. The only reason they can make that claim is because they're dealing with what they think are inhabitants of the United States and not people of the United States. Question.
No, very good, very good. Gatekeeper, we have somebody in queue with a question.
Well, that's good if nobody got any questions, because that means we landed the airplane on the center line of the runway just like it was supposed to be.
Oh, hopefully so. A lot of people are looking at different things that various people have done, and they're finding themselves confused. Saying, well, this guy does stuff a certain way as far as declaring his standing. Somebody else is doing it a completely different way. At the end of the day, I firmly don't believe that there is any one correct, right way or wrong way to do it. You aren't going to go into some statute at large and see that, oh, right here, they supplied everything we need to know in order to do it. And, oh, over here, they supplied the form where you sign on the dotted line. It's not going to work that way. What it's all going to come down to is our own individual realization and comprehension of what has happened. And that's the only way that we are going to be able to make our own claim and be able to stand on anything. Number one, you got to have something to stand on. If you research the info and you don't know the info, then you have no standing because you have nothing that you're standing on. Exactly what Michael's talking about here, and as far as what he is invoking, which, it just kind of set off ding bells the first time I talked to Michael, because that was exactly where I had arrived at in my learning, was that I was reading through the Bill of Rights, and it's like, good Lord, this is like it reads for a different country or something. This really does not apply to people today. Right to keep and bear arms? Do they have the right to travel freely? Et cetera, et cetera. And right there, to me, that was the red flag that, what? People are not in the position that the people were at that time or pre-constitutionally. And I fully agree. We have to go back to pre-constitutionally. And much of what I've stood on just comes right from the First Amendment, that Congress shall make no law, period, regarding an institution of, or an establishment of religion. It doesn't mean a church. That means somebody who knows who they are and has decided who they're going to follow. Do you need to follow Big Brother? Do you need them to take care of you? Or are you strong enough to do it on yourself, between you and the Creator? And that's as simple as what it comes down to. And I felt like a lot of what was written after those opening statements in the First Amendment non-establishments. And that's just what I felt, and that we have to return back to our natural position as heirs and as true Americans. Because right now there are very, very few true Americans on the land right now. And we've gotten the opportunity to speak with Michael tonight, who I firmly believe is one of them. And I appreciate everything, Michael.
Okay, may I make a couple of comments here about what you said?
Sure.
I always refer to the 1787 Constitution of the United States for the United States of America. I use the full deal, put the date and everything in it, because people are throwing around constitutions and all that kind of stuff. You never know which one they're talking about. Okay, and I always say with the preamble minus the amendments. Now, remember, we talked about this before here when I said the reason for the 13th and 14th amendments. Well, even in my humble opinion, even invoking the First Amendment, because none of the amendments were passed by the people. The amendments were proposed by the government and passed by the government to concern the amendments for the inhabitants, not for the people of the United States. And remember what they said here, that the amendments constitute a substantial departure of the constitutional protection accorded fundamental rights. Well, now I know that you didn't say anything about we're in favor of the 14th Amendment and all that kind of stuff, but here's my whole point. If you claim anything under any of the amendments, mistake in my opinion. Everything that's in the amendments has been said not with specificity, but it comes from the Constitution, the 1787 Constitution. Now, what you can do is you can use the text of the amendments without relying on it. You can say that, you're depending upon the 1787 Constitution of the United States for the United States of America, and the provisions of that that have been more clearly or more identified with specificity, as in some of the amendments, without relying thereupon or something like that. But I never use the amendments. I'm sorry, I don't do that for the exact stated reason I just told you.
I think that was a very powerful statement regarding the amendments and for the people. I've always just kind of looked at the beginning of the First Amendment, kind of jokingly in the back of my mind. I think it's kind of funny. To me, reading it is kind of like going into the mind of the writers. Almost like they're thinking out loud, I guess is a good way to put it, where it's like, well, we know we can't dictate what happens in the house of Yahweh, but...
Okay. Next question. Anybody else?
If I may?
Yes, sir.
Jump in.
Okay, just to let everybody know that you press *6 to lock yourself into the Q&A. If you have a question to ask, I'll go ahead and let you guys. I'm going to unmute this one caller. 607, area code 607. You're on.
Hello.
Area code 607.
Yes. I had a couple questions, so I apologize. While we were muted, I had a few things that, or whatever else, I was unable to hear him. I recognized that he referenced Valentine, but he said something that sounded similar to something about the wish of the father or data. I also missed a question shortly thereafter, but honestly, I don't even remember what the second question is, because I've had several TBIs, honestly, and my memory is not the best. So whatever he was saying, around the same time he referenced Valentine's, about the wish of the father or data, or something that sounds similar to that, I'd like him to clarify that. And then I have another question about his notice and claim and how he to them.
Okay? Let me address the wish as the father of data. It's called the wish is the father of the data.
The wish is the father of the data.
That's correct. And
Okay.
it's a psychological term. In fact, I learned it from a psychiatrist. And basically it is that read documents with a closed mind. They're looking for data to support their position, and I have to admit, I'm the first one to admit that I've done that, but I don't want to rely on it. I further research. If I find something that supports my position, I look for other places where it says the same thing to kind of bolster it up here, like I did about the definitive treaty of peace of 1783. I went and bought several, I don't know, 5 or 6, maybe 4 or 5, I don't know, I can't remember now, history books around that time, the 1783 period of time, both written by American and Canadian and United Kingdom. There was one book said that they had a chapter in there, if not dominion, then trade. Listen to those words. If not dominion, then trade. And what the whole chapter was about is the crown learned from his generals over here in the colonies. In fact, was told by the commander over here that at the time he needed to send another 50,000 troopers over here to conquer the Americans. For one, the king didn't have 50,000 troopers. Number two, he didn't have money to go out and buy 50,000 troopers. So he said, whoa, we need to make a little compact here with these dudes. The crown was afraid that we were going to march north and take over Canada. And because we had forts up there, and we had forts on the border, and yada 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 yada, it just goes on to it. So they made a treaty, and the biggest part of the treaty, fishing rights, and a lot of the fishing rights that the Americans were accorded were in Canadian waters. We were given the right to fish in Canadian waters and use the shore facility to dry fish and process fish and all that kind of stuff up there. And so that we were going to do that. We were given that, so we wouldn't invade there and take over their territory, and we would give back their weapons and their forts and all that kind of stuff up there, and we'd draw the border here and yada yada yada. So this is what the Treaty of Peace was. The definitive Treaty of Peace was not a treaty of peace. It was a treaty of commerce. Because, well, listen, neither one of us can win because the Americans weren't willing to go over to England and conquer England. They're coming over here to conquer us either. So it was a draw, and they agreed on the trade compact. And that's basically what it turned out to be. So anyway, the other part of the section there, the wish is the father of the data. Did I cover that sufficiently for you?
I think you're speaking merely or strictly of psychological terms, not in legal terms per se, correct?
Correct. Not in legal terms, not political terms. That is a psychological statement.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss a legal connotation. Oh, and the other thing that I did, now that I had a bit to mull it over, the other thing that you were mentioning about Chisholm, 2 U.S. 419 correctly? Is that what you were saying about Chisholm?
Yes, 2 U.S. 419, 1793.
1793, awesome.
That case is on my website if you can't find it or whatever.
Are you talking about your Facebook homepage, or is there a different website?
No, there's a website that all this information is in, and it's www.freesovereignandindependent.com. I'll repeat it again. www.freesovereignandindependent.com.
Okay. Thank you.
And the whole website down to a 2-page document. On page 2 of that website, in the title of the document, you're going to like this. Everybody does. They just chuckle every time I tell them what it is. The title of the document is Extremely Dangerous Political Information. So anyway, that's on page 2 of the website. Extremely dangerous political information. You can download it, print it, and do whatever. My name's all over it. My address. And by the way, let me just tell you, anybody off the call or whatever can call me at any time, and I'll talk to them about it. I don't have time to be a husband to lonely women who just want to talk to somebody. Okay. But if you have some valid questions about the website or the documents on there, I'll spend an hour, 2 hours to talk to you. It doesn't matter. Okay.
Do you still use the Facebook page?
Yes, I do. I'm not on there very often because Facebook is see, I don't own a television.
Okay.
And Facebook is just like a darn TV to me. It's a time-consuming and all the BS that goes on there. I don't have time, but I usually use it to make announcements to people and whatever. Put some music.
Yes, people contacting you. How do you prefer us to contact you?
You can do it on the Facebook page because I get notifications from Facebook if I have somebody sends me a message or something. And email. There's an email in there. There's also cell phone, a text, however you want to call my office number, send me a fax. I got a fax machine sitting right here. There's about 5 or 6 different ways anybody can contact me.
Where is that? Because I don't see the thing on contacting. It's on your Facebook page?
I don't know. Hang on here. Let me just see. Just hang on a minute. I'm going to jump over there. Just hang on.
I didn't see it on the web page. I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's okay. It's no problem.
There was a page that said contact, but that's just an applet. It's not like you were saying about the. Oh, is it the Culebra Road? Is that what that the contact? Is that what you mean?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Okay, I have that then.
Yep.
Do you want me to repeat it for the other people who don't have that up right now, or is that something you prefer not be in the call?
Well, probably what I could do is I'll put my full contact information up on the Facebook page there so that everybody knows.
Okay, and the other question is, as far as the complete notice or claim, however you wish to call, do you file the notice all by itself? Do you file it with, for example, whether I'm trying to say supporting statement or supporting information, but I know that neither support nor information means what the common government intends it to mean.
Right.
So, like proof of life or a last will and testament, is there anything else that you add with yours that the intent and purpose that you're talking about?
Yes, sir. It's on my website. It's called the Notarial Verification of Established Truth. And I use that. That's a declaration by a notary public who's an officer of this state, commission officer of the state of Texas. He declares based upon his own personal knowledge and the truth of me sitting there in front of him, et cetera, makes a declaration that I'm a man created by nature and nature's God, and I'm currently living on the land of Texas, or the land of the United States, more specifically Texas. I do not sign that document. He signs it as an official commission officer of the state of Texas. And
as such, those still require that they recognize that they have a duty and obligation.
Well, I use that I filed that into the county recorder's office down here, filed the declaration of political character and status so that they could see that I had that I am who I say I am, and have established myself in the eyes of this state, of the state of Texas. You see, here's the thing: we can't avoid these people. I explained it to you. They provide essential governmental duties to us, and see, a lot of the people in this community, they want to get rid of everybody, and they want to do this, they want to do that. And I said, oh hell no! When you look at these people as performing essential governmental duty for you, you look on them as a different character. In fact, I'll tell you, I was in court one time, excuse me, and I was standing in front of the judge up there just by myself. No, the state wasn't up there. Nobody, just judges called me up there, wanted to talk to me. So I was up there, and I gave my little spiel about the judge. Now, I do not consent to any of my delegated sovereignty being used by this court to even talk to me. I said,
say that again. That sounds like a powerful thing. Can you say that again, sir?
I told him, I told the judge, I said, I do not consent to any of my delegated sovereignty being used to empower this court to even talk to me. You know, forum and foreign state of Texas court on my land without my consent. And I said, it's not that I have anything against you. I said, you just can't do it against me because I don't consent. I said, your job here is to control all these inhabitants around here. He sat back in his chair and he just smiled. He just got that little shitty grin on his face, you know?
Can you say, I'm sorry that I'm not catching this all at once. I got that the delegated sovereignty was thereby revoked from the foreign forum of that court, the court of that state of upon your land without your consent, and that their duty or obligation is. Can you say that part again?
Well, their duty, their central governmental duty is to control administratively, democratically the inhabitants of the United States, i.e., by mob rule. And when I got done talking to the judge, I was walking back and said hi to the deputy. He says, "Well, Mr. Kearns," he says, "What's your opinion about deputy sheriffs?" I said, "Oh man," I says, "I want to double your salary. I want more of you." I said, I'm all for you guys. Man, he got a big ass smile on his face, and I was his best buddy after that. I said, "You guys performing essential government duty for you." He says, "I'm be damned if I'm against somebody who's got a duty to me."
Awesome.
Yeah, you just got to turn it around on them. See that they all think that you're a bunch of badasses come in there and disrupt the whole thing and kill the government and all that. No. Yeah, I'm the most for the government you could ever believe. I said just that I've got to get them to provide essential governmental duties for me, and it's up to me to identify what those essential governmental duties are, help them do their job to me. Not a problem.
Two questions come up. How do you enforce them or get them to admit that they have that duty or obligation to provide those services? Frequently, people tender a notice to the court, and no one can ever, and frequently the term used is enforce, but I recognize that there's a discrepancy here between the common guttural intent versus legalese meaning of enforcement, and whether it breaks down to peace or war, and how to simply get them to comply with the peaceful wishes of the common man.
Well,
so how do we accomplish that?
It's very simple. You walk in there. You're the king. You're the sovereign in the courtroom. Nobody else has the sovereignty in there that you do. Nobody.
I respect that, but how to get them to recognize that is the question. How do we enforce that?
You tell them face to face. You look them right square in the eye. And you don't have to read it off the paper like you're reading a script.
Look, with all respect intended, I've done that, and I've still had them physically lay hands on me while telling them they are operating commercially without my consent. And so I'm wondering what key I'm missing, what linchpin. I went in there, I had a proof of life, I had a last will and testament, I had a noticing claim. I specified that they were operating commercially without my consent. I used everything from the whole redeemed flesh, lives, everything from the blood flows, and you name it. I wish I could, and if you've got time for it, I'll tell you exactly what I told them. I'm trying to summarize it so that we're not taking up a lot of time. But I've had them violate and transgress every possible meaning of the term peace. And the spirit and nature of their trespass was this.
Okay, well, here's what I would recommend you do. Go look at that website I just gave you the site of, and you look at the documents that I produced, and you see, you make your own comparison between your documents and my documents and see what the difference is. I don't get that. I don't get that from these officers.
And the documents on that page are the only thing that you tendered?
Yep.
And so just to clarify, and I apologize if this is overly redundant, the private bill, the notice of the office of the House and the Senate individually?
No. The only two documents that I used are the notarial verification of established truth and a political declaration of character, status, and allegiance. That's the only two. All that other stuff is political to the Congress and that day. I don't put that in there.
Okay, so you have the notarial verification of established truth and the declaration of political character and status? That will help me tremendously. Thank you.
Hey, no problem. Okay, we got all the questions answered on this.
Oh, you've answered my question abundantly. Thank you.
No problem.
We got 3 more.
3 more. Okay, well, let's go.
All right. All right, next caller, 478, area code 478.
How you doing?
If I was any better, you couldn't stand it.
I know that's right. Okay. I have already done my notary verification of established truth. Filed that into the county. Okay?
Yep.
Went back to go file my declaration of claim of property, political character, status, and allegiance. And the clerk of the court refused to file it. My question is this. I'm surrounded by 4 counties. County I'm currently facing some issues with, and that's the county where I lay my head at.
Hello? Let me stop right there for a minute. If you have a problem with a county clerk filing documents, there is a county clerk in Georgia who will file any document you send him and send you.
Lamar County. Well, my paperwork was. I started my paperwork. We actually were in a group together, and I started my paperwork over a year ago. But that was before I found out about Lamar County.
Okay.
All right. So I'm familiar with that, and I can, file that other document into that court. Do I need to file these 2 documents in any county in which I have property, any county in which I could be arrested, any county that could give me problems, or would it suffice that it's filed in one county or in Lamar County?
Well, here's what I do. If I have an action in another county or something like that, I get certified copies out of the original county and take them in there, filing in the court and under judicial notice.
Okay. So, okay. All right. And that's in any case, and it would be both of those.
Yep.
both the notary and the political status.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have property that's not in your name, but in a business that you have, how would the notary verification that you did of truth and with the declaration of political status, or how would you work with it being a business that you own that has property in that county? I guess is the question I need to ask.
Okay, well, you see here, we're operating politically. And what is necessary is for you to establish the claim that you have in the business venture as part of your claim. Now, Supreme Court case here, I'm going to quote to you here, and I want you to write it down. Go look it up because I think it's on my website. It's come out here. Marion versus Chiricahua Apache Nation. Okay, and it is 455 U.S. 1982. I repeat, Marion Merrion versus Chiricahua Apache Tribe. 455 130 1982. And here's what it says. Quote, to its source. Sovereign power, even when unexercised, is an enduring presence that governs all contract subject to the sovereign's jurisdiction and will remain intact unless surrendered in unmistakable terms. To presume that a sovereign forever waives the right to exercise one of its sovereign powers unless it expressly reserves the right to exercise that power in a commercial agreement turns the concept of sovereignty on its head, and we do not adopt this analysis. So once you establish yourself as a pre-constitutional sovereign, you don't surrender anything by entering into a contract. That statement right there in that Marion versus Chiricahua, when you establish yourself as one of the free, sovereign, independent people of the United States, you have just reversed everything that you have ever done with the government. It has taken you from debtor to creditor. It has taken you from slave to master. It has taken you from whatever, however you want to say it. This is why I was looking for this particular situation pre-constitutional, is because I wanted to get out of this gotcha bullshit. Oh, you didn't dot this I, you didn't cross that T, and blah, 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 blah. No, I don't need that. I don't worry about that whatsoever. Because I'm relying upon their own thing. You're talking about sovereigns. You're talking about sovereigns applies to me as a sovereign.
And I think that's key because, you know, they want to apply their laws to us, but their laws don't apply to them. In fact, I posted something the other day that we had a cop down here in Georgia who shot herself and called up and said this black man shot her and so forth and so on. And basically, because of dash cam footage or something, and the GBI investigated it, come to find out she lied. So she's currently under arrest. But normally, by their laws to us, but their laws don't apply to them. When we know that their laws don't apply to us, it applies to them as government employees.
Okay. Well, let me comment on that now. I addressed that early on in the call here about administrative democracy. And let me put it to you real succinctly. Everybody in the world knows what the law of the land is. The supreme law of the land is the Constitution. It says it's the supreme law of the land. And the documents that were ahead of it and behind it. Okay? That's the law of the land. Now, is there a supreme law of the forum written down? A supreme law of the forum? No. There can never be a supreme law of the forum. And here's the reason why. Every administrative officer that you ever talk to, the lady on the phone, the cop on the street, the JP judge, the Supreme Court judge, every one of them, they're all operating administrative. They don't want to tell you that, oh, we operate under the Constitution. That's a bunch of bullshit. What they're operating is administratively. And they have the authority administratively to do whatever they want to. Why do they have that authority? Because they are presumptively dealing with slaves. They're not used to dealing with people who are free, sovereign, independent, unless you just lay it on them and tell me, listen, you can't do that to me. It's not authorized. You got to go in there and stand toe to toe with them and tell them, you can shoot me dead. I can't stop you, but you can't do it lawfully. You see, here's the thing. They're all operating under color of law. They're not operating under law. And the situation is that every time they open their mouth, they're making a presumptive statement. A presumptive statement. You know what the law of presumption is?
They presume whatever that they believe about you.
Okay, well, let me tell you what the law of the presumption is. The law of presumption is the trier of fact shall find for the presumption until such time as evidence is entered distance. Think about that. Think about that. What does that do? That is actually a burden shifting doctrine. They make a presumption that you're a taxpayer. They make a presumption that you're a driver. They make a presumption that you're a slave. Only you can state a fact as a matter of fact about you, and the fact stated as a matter of fact negates their presumption. And let me tell you something. And you think about this. The only job when they appoint you an attorney in the court, the only job of that attorney is to make sure that you do not state facts as a matter of fact in that situation to break their presumption. That's why they won't let you talk. That's why the attorney won't let you testify. Boom, 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 all that kind of stuff, because they don't want you to state a fact as a matter of fact. You get up on that state, and they swear you in and say, blah, blah, blah. I'm a man created by nature and nature's God. Boom! That just breaks their presumption that you're a person. They can only deal with persons. They can't deal with a man. You can say, Judge, I just stated a fact as a matter of fact, and nobody can state different here because they can't state a fact as a matter of fact. Only I can state that fact as a matter of fact. Therefore, I've broken the presumption. You need to dismiss the case. And they start blabbering. But that's the reason. That's the exact reason why I had the notary public make that notarial verification for me. You outside of their jurisdiction as a man. The other second thing that takes you outside their jurisdiction is you're not living within the state of Texas. You're currently living on Texas land.
And you know what, Mike? And here in the state of Georgia, in the spirit and nature of the 1877 Georgia Constitution, without subsequent amendments, one of the courts listed is a notary. A notary here in Georgia under the 1877 Georgia Constitution is a court. So for me, I have a declaration by a court officer or a court that I'm a man. Okay? Now, I didn't learn this until after I started your process, like I said, which was almost year and a half ago. But I think I want to see if I can try to add a cover page or something to that and file that when I file that in the county, that according to the 1877 Georgia Constitution.
Okay, now let me ask you a question. When you had a notary in the notary court, did the notary issue a judgment?
Well, basically, at the time, the only thing I did was what you gave me, what you instructed me to do, and that was to get the notary verification.
Okay, so you, and this we don't have that in Texas. At least I don't know of it yet.
Okay.
As I go back to that notary and I'd say, let's hold court. And,
yeah. So in essence, what you're saying is redo it, because in here I had 3 lines, and one of them is 1887 Constitution of the United States for the United States of America, nor subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So I could add in the spirit and nature of 1877 Georgia Constitution without subject to amendment, and judgment be declared.
Well, yes. Here's what you do: is you sue Georgia in the justice of in the notary court.
Okay.
For declaratory judgment.
Okay.
And notice to the state of Georgia and ask them if they wish to appear and contest the thing. Now, what you can do is you can enter the evidence into the record there as a document from your doctor, officer of the state, also that you have blood pressure, you breathe, and you do this and that and all that kind of stuff, and see if they can bring anything that says that you're not a man created by nature, nature's God. And when they fail to come into court, which they're not going to do, default judgment, and you have the notary enter default judgment, and you give notice of it to the state of Georgia, and then after the time for appeals run, it's a done deal. They had their opportunity, so now it's written in concrete and pulled a marble slab over the top of it that you are a man created by nature, nature's God, and the state of Georgia. Their officers have said so, and nobody's appealed.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
That sounds like a winner, Mike.
Now, here's the thing, and we haven't even gotten into the one Supreme Court here, and my God, here we are, an hour and 20 minutes into this deal. I don't know if you guys can stand listening to me anymore or not, but here's where we're going with this is in Article 3, Section 1 of the Constitution of the United States for the United States of America, where it says one Supreme Court. That is not the Supreme Court in District of Columbia. That is the one Supreme Court for every one of the people of the United States in their own one Supreme Court. That's how powerful this exercise, independent people of the United States is. We have the supreme authority to for ourselves to disable anything the government wants to do for us or to us. Now, we haven't gotten into that, and that's for another day, but I'm just bringing that to you as long as we're talking about a court. Okay? All right, let's. If we're done, let's move to the next guy.
All right, thanks. Do we have anybody else up, Gatekeeper?
Yeah, we got 3 more in Q&A.
Okay. Hey, I'm here as long as Michael can stand to be here.
I'm here for the event,
Hey, it's a beautiful thing. I think you're bringing forward some great info and some great knowledge that's been hidden from everybody.
Well, this airplane's not run out of gas yet.
All right, so let's move on to our next caller there.
Okay.
All right, area code 469, you're on.
Hello, 469, go ahead.
Yes, my name is Scott. I'm in Dallas. Michael, thank you very much for everything that you've been bringing to us. I guess I'm going back to the previous caller had mentioned, and this is the problem that I have encountered, my wife and I have encountered. The recorder here in Dallas has refused to record these documents. And so, therefore, I'm trying to force the issue with the clerk of the courts. I don't know where that's going to lead. I have my doubts that the clerk of the courts is going to respond appropriately. So again, could you, Bexar County, and I've looked over your document, and I'm assuming you didn't have any troubles in having your documents recorded. Am I correct?
Well, you see, here's what they asked me a question. We can only file documents that pertain to land in Bear County. I said, well, look at right here. It's currently on the land of Texas. Is Bear County in Texas or not? Oh yeah, okay. Boom, boom, boom. Stamp them all.
I said the same thing. He said, well, we only deal with real estate and land and so forth. And I said, well, then I guess I'm in the right place. It says right here, land of Texas, and I'm standing on it.
Yep.
And he looked at me like I was crazy, and he told me that, well, I'm going to have to run these documents by the district attorney, and I'll get back with you. He never got back with me. I don't know what. Go ahead.
Were you dealing with the elected officer or a deputy?
I was dealing with the deputy.
Okay, hold it right there. Eventually, if you get that kind of reaction, you got to say, look, let me talk to the clerk, the guy who's elected, who's got the bond, who's got the oath, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. That's what we did, and the clerk was not available to talk to us. So we wrote the letter, the clerk of the court, the registered letter, and basically said recording of these documents is demanded. And all I can do is wait and see what he does.
Well, here's what I do. I just go back to him and say, well, listen, talk to the people, because you got to do it respectfully, and
Absolutely.
And I know you're doing it, but I'm just saying, you just keep going back to him and say, listen, I want to see the man. I want to see the person who's got the authority here, who's perform these essential government duties for us. Blah 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 blah. Now, when I did that, let me tell you something. The clerk says, oh, Mr. Kearns, I'm so sorry you're having a problem. Let me see this. Oh, yeah, here. Now, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a special deal for you, Mr. Kearns. With gold foil stars on her and put the big impression on it. Would you like that? I said, yes, sir. That is performing a duty for me. So you gotta stroke their feathers. These guys are on our side. They just don't know it. See, they think we're against them, but we're not against them.
Well, I guess you're talking about, just repeated due diligence here.
Yep. You just gotta let them know you're not going to go away.
Very well.
And until you get to see the elected official, I would not. When I go there, I would never go there and talk to another deputy. I'd say, I came here to make an appointment to see the clerk. When can you set an appointment so I can see the clerk? I'm having a problem, and of course, then they're going to do is they're going to get the chief deputy, who will come in. I don't know if you talk to the chief deputy or just a deputy, but sometimes the chief deputy or the executive assistant or whatever don't have to get in to talk to the clerk or whatever. But I ended up going and talking to the clerk himself. Nice guy, just said, oh, hell, that's okay, no problem. Man, let me handle that for you, Mr. Kearns. Boom. Just like it did, just like it happened.
Okay. Yeah, the guy I was dealing with was he had the title of the recordings office, and as far as I could see, he was the top guy in that office. They didn't want to deal with us at all. But thank you for that. I'll pursue it like you mentioned.
Yeah, and if it all fails and goes to shit in a handbasket, just go to the guy over in Gwinnett County over there in Georgia. He'll file anything and send you a certified copy. And then the document is about any other clerk, county clerk in the nation is required by law to file that in his, as long as it's a certified copy, an official document recorded someplace else previously, in his record.
Now, in Georgia, which place are you talking about?
Oh, let me see here now. Let me just hang on here. I'm going to give you the man's name.
I'll pipe in. This is Brian. I'll pipe in and help you with that. That is Bill Hewitt. He's the clerk in Lamar County.
Yeah.
Hewitt. WITT?
Yes, I believe so.
And it's Lamar County,
Correct.
Georgia. And he is the clerk of the court there?
Correct.
The county
Okay.
County clerk. Yep.
Yep.
Great. Well, this guy, I guess, is on our side, and that's good. All right. Well, I'll mute out and continue listening. Thank you so much.
You're entirely welcome. Have a great day.
You too.
Yeah, Bill Hewitt has been helping out. He's getting a strong work overload, I know, and I've heard rumor that he's set back a little bit getting things done because of it, but he totally recognizes that true Americans, I believe, are stepping forward. Michael, I had a question from one of my group members here in Tactical Sovereignty, because there's been a few calls and interviews by different people going around where it looks as if maybe the courts look differently on the standing of a woman compared to the standing of a man. And the question was, as a woman, and her filing it as a woman, or should it just be filed, I don't know, maybe plain and simple, just as a lawful American?
Well, I think in the Bible, in Genesis chapter 1, someplace, it says God created man and then he created woman. So, you know, I mean, anybody who got a problem with a woman has got a problem because their mother, now they got a problem with their mother. So I would just say a woman is on equal legal footing, equal political footing with a man any day of the week. So, no, I just tell the lady, go for it.
Yep, absolutely. Well, some of what I've heard was, for instance, that a woman necessarily cannot go and sue, for instance, in court without permission of her husband, which is something I had never heard of.
That in writing as far as the statute, code, rule, or regulation, because I don't believe that.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it. I've looked around, I haven't been able to find it either. So, okay, yeah, just, go in there, equal standing as the man. We have another caller with a question, Gatekeeper?
Yeah, we got anonymous fake caller. One sec. All right, you're on.
On the line?
Yeah, anonymous, what's up?
Yes. Mr. Kearns, could you possibly go in a little more depth into the inhabitants and why the inhabitants are regulated by the code regulations and rules versus one of the people and not being regulated by those rules?
Yep. The situation is that the inhabitants, you see, this, as I've stated previously, the definitive treaty of peace defined two people groups. One is the people of the United States, and the other is the inhabitants of the United States. Right in Article 3. Now let's back up a minute. The Declaration of Independence of 1776. Even before that, I just got back from a trip out to Plymouth Rock, Massachusetts, And we walked around out there and kicked the dirt and bobbed all that kind of stuff, which is kind of an interesting thing. Walk on the replica of the Mayflower and all that stuff. Anyway, here's the situation. The people who came over on the first boat were two people groups. One wanted to be free and sovereign. The other wanted to remain loyal to the crown. That division continues today across all lines of race, color, creed, ethnicity, gender, anything that you want to talk about. That division continues today. Only what they did is they didn't want you to know that division exists. Just like they don't want, the government doesn't want you to know about the law of the land and the law of the forum, and your ability to choose the law that you want to operate under, so that you can solve the conflict of law doctrine for yourself, your own business affairs, etc. And they don't want you to know about the division of the money, intrinsic value money, gold and silver versus fiat money, with this paper crap. Not about division here, but the biggest division is they don't want to understand is the people of the United States have stated, and that the inhabitants even continue to this very day. And I'm getting an awful lecture here. Somebody. The inhabitants even continue until this very day, although they don't want to call it that.
So could you liken the inhabitants to an employee, and an employee being subject to the rules and regulations of the company?
Well, I would.
That's exactly the way they look at it, as far as you having to be liable for Internal Revenue Service.
Well, yeah, but that's a you see, when you get into business world and commerce, now that the government has authority to regulate commerce, authority to regulate the people of the United States, but it does have authority to regulate commerce. And so we're just talking about personal declarations and issues tonight, rather than getting into commerce. Now, I will say this about commerce: we just talked about here that Miriam versus Chiricahua Apache Nation, and if you represent yourself to be free, sovereign, independent, you can't sign away any of your fundamental substantive rights or natural rights in a contract. You don't have to make a reservation of those rights in any commercial agreement.
Well, we originally were talking about right and standing to be able to file a claim. Reference the inhabitants under the statute, rules, regulations, and codes, and connect that with their standing and right to file a claim.
A slave does not have a right to file a claim. Because they can't bring it to a court. They don't have a right to file a claim. The free, sovereign, independent people of the United States have the right to file a claim. The Constitution does not apply to the inhabitants of the United States. They're administrative citizens of the Crown. In fact, I'll even take it one step further here. When the Crown, the Crown's claim to the states as being free, sovereign, independent. Let me just elicit on that a little bit. The states, according to the United States Supreme Court in Texas versus White, and that was a 1868 case, put down the states is three things. They got the land, the law, and the government. Excuse me, the land, the law, and the people. Now, if the land is free, if the state is free, sovereign, independent, the land doesn't care about free, sovereign, independent. the law doesn't care about free, sovereign, independent. The only thing that cares about free, sovereign, independent, the acknowledgement of it, is the people. So the situation is that you have as an inhabitant, you have no right to make a claim. It doesn't exist. Oh, I know where I was going. I wanted to take you down to the path here about your estate. You know, because here's the thing that eventually that the king did in this definitive treaty of peace of 1783. He released the private rights to the people of the United States, while he retained the public rights to the inhabitants. Now, what does that mean? That means that the crown released the estates of the people of the United States to themselves. Because when you're a slave of the crown of Great Britain, you are not the executor of your own estate. The crown is the executor of your estate. In 1783, as they released the private rights of the people to name their own executor to their estate, while the crown today retains the general executor position over the estate of all the inhabitants of the the inhabitants of the United States. So this is one of the things that when you convert yourself, make your own declaration, this is one of the things that's reversed. You now have the authority to name the general executor of your own estate and take it away from anybody.
In the public side, there can only be an executor. In the private side is where the general executor comes in. Would that be a correct statement?
I don't know. You can call it whatever you want to. You know, I mean, I'm not going to cut hairs on that. I haven't researched it to find out a definitive answer for that. I know I name myself as the general executor of my estate. That's all I worry about. Okay.
I think you answered the inhabitant bill about the whether or not the Crown had released the claim on the inhabitants or not, and that's pretty much what I was trying to get to. Thank you.
Change the claim on the inhabitants and retain nothing. Now let me tell you something. Here was a few years ago, I flew over here in her big ass airplane, landed in New York City for one day, and flew back to England. Now, I have never been able to find out why she did that or what the purpose was, but I can guarantee you she had to be on the land of the United States to affect some document. And I have no idea what it was, and I haven't really taken the time to research what it was about or anything, but I know that she came over here one day, turned right around and got in that big-ass airplane, flew back to England the same day. So she was here to sign something, put her signature, and she had to be here in the United States land to do it. Now, that's my opinion. That's just my opinion. Okay, if we're done with the questions, let's move on here. We'll take up the next thing here. Let me see what it is here. Oh, explain your authority to make a claim. Okay. This is where you have to have this coming from your soul. We've talked about this before previously. And nobody expects you to quote Miriam versus Chiricahua Apache Nation off the top of your head. Nobody expects you to quote Chisholm versus Georgia. Nobody expects you to quote Ponzi versus Fessenden, or Kearns versus United States, or whatever. But they expect you to have it there so you can turn to and say, "Well, Judge, listen, I got the document right here. I'll give you. Here's the case law and supports it. What I believe. This is what I've stated. This is what I'm willing to die for." And there is some case law here about a belligerent claimant. And And let me see if I can pull that up here right now because it bears repeating here. Let's see here. Belligerent claimant. Oh yeah. Okay. Here we go. Okay. This is United States versus Johnson in the United States District Court for the Middle District of Pennsylvania, 1947. 7-6 F sup 538. And I'm paging down here to find the thing that I want to highlight. I'm paging down here, down. Oh, hell, don't tell me I didn't highlight that. See if I put it up here too. No. Well, I'm sorry. I turned to something I don't have highlighted, but it's basically the essence of it is if you read through that thing there, this is a head note. Production unlawful process requires immediate resistance. The very purpose of process is to allow the person against whom or against whose property the writ is directed legality. Where the production is in response to a lawful process, owner of the books or papers is afforded protection by the limitation which the law imposes with respect to lawful persons. That's not the thing. Anyway, the essence of this thing here, that case I just quoted you, is that a person has to, not a person, but a man has to resist to the point of contempt of court in order to protect his rights. As an attorney can't do it. And I'm sorry I'm groping around here for this. I got the right case, but I just don't have the stuff that I'm looking for. And as I'm talking, I'm down here looking for it. But it's one of those things that sometimes. Okay. Sorry, can't help. That's the right case. U.S. versus Johnson, 76 F sub 538, 1947. Okay. All right. So explain your authority to make the claim. And it's like the gentleman from Georgia where they've got a justice or a notary has a court, is a court officer and has a court. Oh, I like that. That's excellent. We ought to see if that is applicable in more than just Georgia, because here's the thing: there's a doctrine called Uniform Laws of National Application, which means that all the laws that apply in one state are supposed to apply in another state. So under the law of the Uniform Laws of National Application, one might be able to transpose that law into his own home state. Something to think about. Okay, anybody got any questions on it? Stand up. I mean, you got to be able to do this yourself. You can't call Mr. Kearns and say, hey, come here and talk for me. Now, that doesn't work. You've got to be able to do this yourself, and you've got to, the cop on the beat. They understand. They know. Can't be afraid of them. Look them right square in the eye. Do not hang your head. Don't look at the ground. What else? Anybody got any questions on that? Okay. All right, let's move on to defend your right to make a claim. Here again, you have to be able to talk to the judge and tell him what authority you have to make the claim. Where did you get your authority? From the Treaty of the Definitive Treaty of Peace. That's where I claim I got my authority. and the Treaty of Peace got their authority from the Declaration of Independence. I recognize bring to myself the laws and the treaties, and invoke those things. I do it from the definitive treaty of the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, the definitive Treaty of Peace, 1783, the Constitution of the United States, and I might have left one or two out in there, but anyway, you get the idea. So I can show a chain of how this thing happens. They want to know by where you get the authority, and they want to take you into legal land and say, no, Judge. It says here in the Declaration of Independence, we're talking about a political bond. Political bond. That's what we're talking about. And if you want to have even more specifics about it, we're not relying upon it. It's the freedom of association. That's a God-given right, fundamental right. You have the right to associate with whom you want to. You don't have to be the king's man. You don't have to be anything. You have to be with this group or whatever, but you can be with like-minded people. So you have to have it together so that when you go to these people, that they have an understanding that this is coming from your own soul. This is not something that just got out of a book or you got off the internet or whatever. But when you put all these things together and come to a person in power, you have to remember that these people are not operating under law. They're operating under administrative jurisdiction. What they say in their courtroom, and I've had them tell me, Mr. Kearns, you're in my courtroom and my rules apply. Yes, sir. That's exactly correct. I'm in your courtroom and your rules apply. But I don't authorize your court. I do not delegate any sovereignty to your court. Blah, 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 blah. So you have deprived them of power. And then the last word, the two best words you can say is, I don't consent. Now, when you do that, and you go into these people and you tell them, well, listen, I'm gonna make a reservation of my rights here, and under a contract / agreement that I not knowingly, intentionally, or voluntarily enter into, runs back and says, oh, okay, Mr. Kearns, he says, what right are you going to reserve for yourself? I look him right square in the eye and say, Judge, I'm going to reserve the right not to be compelled to perform. To a man, they throw up their hands and say, "Oh my God, you're without law." I says, "Oh no." I said, "That's the right that I'm reserving to myself, not the right not to be compelled to perform." Because you see, that's what contracts are about. Contract, if somebody's in a contract made a right not to be compelled to perform, because that's what contracts are, is compelling somebody who done not performing a contract to conform to their end of the bargain. So you got to remember that. The right that you're reserving to yourself is the right not to be compelled to perform. Okay. Hey, got anybody questions on that? Okay. Now.
Yeah, we do. We got two more in the question and answer for you here.
Okay.
Area code 330, you're on.
Yeah, this is Dave Roberts. How you guys doing tonight?
If we're anybody, you couldn't stand it.
This goes back to earlier when you talked. I didn't get to hear your presentation in the beginning. I just kind of caught on. You made a comment about the Constitution of 1787. Just for my clarity, are we still talking about the same one from 1887 to 1889? Is that the same Constitution, or is that totally two different documents?
1787 to 1789?
Constitution I'm of knowledge of is 1789, and you keep stating 1787. So I just want clarity: is that documents or is that the same document?
It's the same document, and here's the difference. In 1787, the people put forth that Constitution. In 1789, the states and the federal government ratified it. So you see, here's the thing: the power comes from the people of the United States. When you read Chisholm versus Georgia, it uses this term "people of the United States" 14 times in that one decision. And this is the reason why these law schools never take law students back before 1804, 1805 for case law. They don't want these kids learning that to learn about Chisholm versus Georgia, and because that delineates where the sovereignty really resides in the people of the United States.
Get that. Okay, so is there a way to reference what was presented in 1787 versus what? I mean, I can find documentation for 1789, but what I'm asking is, is there in the history, somewhere in the history, that I could see, presented to the government?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There's a place called constitution.org. You can find it there.
Okay, I'm familiar with that. All right, Constitution.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Now I got one other question, just for clarity. I was half listening when you made the statement, so I apologize. You stated, I believe you stated, that if the document, like a declaration of status, gets logged in at Lamar County, Georgia, I can then take that document down to my local county clerk of court, and he has to file it.
You have to get the county clerk over in Lamar, Georgia, to issue a certified copy of that document, and then you can take that certified copy of the document down to your county clerk, and he has to record it.
Yeah, I have a certified copy, so I just take the certified copy down, and he has to bring it into the court.
Yes, into the county records. Correct.
Right. Okay. And because like a lot of states, Ohio, they only allow Ohio Revised Code Law to be logged into the court. They won't allow anything else in. So, all right, that's good to know.
Logged into court? What do you mean logged into the court?
You can't, any document that you take down to the clerk of courts to be logged, to be filed into the court, they won't accept it. They won't allow it. They won't even talk to you. I mean, like for instance, you want to take your authenticated birth certificate and you want it on file at the courthouse, they won't allow it to be entered.
Okay.
Gives me some leverage. I mean, there's others. I mean, I could go into 18 USC 1983 and file a complaint in that regard, but I'm not ready to start that fight yet. So this gives me some leverage that allows me to do what I need to do without posing any major problems, so to speak.
Okay. Are you in Ohio yourself?
Yeah, Northeast Ohio.
Let's see. There's a place up there had a lot of car places, and trying to think of it. I used to fly into Ohio with car parts all the time. Northeast Ohio. It's up there near the Pittsburgh border, the Pennsylvania border.
Correct.
Anyway.
Yeah, I'm by Cleveland, Akron, Canton, Football Hall of Fame, that area.
Okay. Well, I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did. Thank you very much. You have a great one.
You too. Thank you.
We have one more in Q&A.
Okay.
All right. All right, Anonymous, go ahead. Anonymous, you can go ahead. You have the floor. Well, I guess not.
Okay.
Q&A queue is cleared.
Okay, well, let's see. We've got about 10 minutes left. So let me read to you here to back up this thing about essential governmental duties. I want to read to you the definition in Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition, page 546. It says essential governmental duties. Those duties which framers of Constitution intended each member of Union would assume in functioning under form of government guaranteed by Constitution. And again, those duties which framers of Constitution intended each member of Union would assume in functioning under form of government guaranteed by the Constitution. In other words, the way I read that is it's from the Constitution. So, and there's several of them spoken for in the preamble. So anyway, that's, I just wanted to clear that up so we got it all square around. Okay, everybody go to sleep. Would everybody sleep?
Brian, are you there?
He's having a sandwich.
You want to sleep too?
No, I'm right here. No, this is great info. Yeah, I'll tell you what, just like when I spoke to Michael a few weeks ago, someone brings forward such great info. I mean, I never sit down to a call without like a pen and paper handy. I hope everybody that's been listening in is doing the same thing as I've been sitting here scribbling frantically. And this is going to be up on YouTube. Everybody can go back, listen to it again. I'm sure I'm going to be listening to it again. And I've got a couple of people specifically in mind that I'd like to have hear this. But yeah, this is great info. I don't know if, Michael, if you were complete with everything you wanted to state, and if we had another person or two in queue.
Well, let me close out the program with this. There's a lot of people who want to try to do this within the statute, code, rules, and regulations. And it wasn't until I realized that the statute, codes, and rules and regulations and all that bullshit does not apply to me that I finally I said, wow, no wonder I can't win. You know, because I went into the law thing here years and years and years ago. In fact, I'll tell you what, hanger flying. My first big deal with the law was when I was a pilot and I was flying a helicopter. And I was ferrying this helicopter, Bell 47, from Danville, Illinois, out to New Hampshire, someplace. Danville and the owner of the airplane, the helicopter, was with me. I was the pilot, and I was ferrying it. And we landed in Muncie, Indiana, at the airport, filled up with gas. And he said, let's get a cab. We'll go into town motel. I said, what the hell are you talking about? Take a cab. I said, we got $100,000 taxi cab right here. Let's land this dude right there at the Holiday Inn parking lot. Well, that caused a hell of an uproar. and as soon as I did that, there was 50 or 100 kids with bicycles there, 15 squad cars, 1,000 people. You know, just a mass of people. But the biggest prick in the FAA happened to be having dinner there. He walks up and flashes the badge before the machine is shut down and all that kind of stuff. And he says, I'm with the FAA. He says, I don't care who the hell you're with. Get away from the machine. You just encourage every kid to walk up to this thing where there's lots of moving parts. And I said, somebody can get hurt here. He did, and I tied the machine down, blah, 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 went inside. And the FAA was in there talking to the manager of the motel. It was a Holiday Inn. So anyway, the FAA told tried to get the manager to swear out a complaint against me for landing in his parking lot. The manager said, well, listen, he says, I pardon motorcycles out there, trailers, boats on trailers, semi-trucks, cars, trucks, everything. He said, what's the matter with a helicopter landing out there? Well, blah, 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 blah. So he turns to me, the manager turns to me, he said, Mr. Kearns, you going to spend the night in my motel? I said, yes, sir. He said, you going to eat dinner, supper here? Yes, sir. And I said, breakfast too. He says, I'm not swearing out a complaint against a good customer. What's the matter with you? So anyway, he filed a complaint and wanted $6,000 of my money for that landing. That was back in 1972. And $6,000 was a lot of money back then. Anyway, it took me 3 years, and I beat him. I didn't pay him a penny. So that started my quest in the law. And anyway, so that's about.
Wow, amazing.
That's not the extent of it. Let me tell you, that's not the extent of it, but that's the beginning of it.
Yeah, everybody has some that triggers them into the research where they go, something that isn't quite right here, And I think if we look back at scripture, you're talking about statutes. You go back and look at, it tells you that you're not supposed to be turning to the statutes. Hey, you might turn into one. Look at Lot's wife. Statutes are nothing more than a statue. That's what they are.
Right.
There's something that stands, and it stands for, their department, for their employees, not for the natural man. His wife looked back, and she turned into a statue.
Yep. Well, anyway, let me close out here, and I'm going to say good night to you all. And anybody can contact me at any time, and call me, text me, whatever, and I'll talk to them. And again, I don't give legal advice. I only give political advice, and you don't need a license to give political advice.
You want to give us your website one more time before you cruise out of here, sir?
Okay, yes. It's www.freesovereignandindependent.com. I repeat, freesovereignandindependent.com. All run together, all lowercase.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And thank you for coming. I loved having you here.
Okay. Glad I could be able to help. All right.
Absolutely were.
Good night.
All right, Ryan, I'm going to close it out.
And there we've got it from somebody that's done it and how to do it.
Yeah, it's great news, great information. More information we get, we can present.
Did your disclaimer get cut from in the beginning, you said?
Yeah, it recorded onto the control panel of the conference call, but did not stream to YouTube. So before we end, I'll bring it out.
All right.
This is the Matrexit discussion group. I'm Judge DW, aka the Gatekeeper. The disclaimer is the information provided in this discussion group is for educational, entertainment, and informational purposes only. The broadcaster and hosts of this discussion group cannot be held accountable for any material shared. We're just mere messengers to share the information to help others. Like Michael said, the information discussed in this group cannot be construed as legal advice. Comment concerns about legal situations that you're in, or if you perceive this as gateway to your legal problems, please seek a competent attorney. All right, everybody have a good night. Stay safe.
I want to